Right, so we're starting off strong with section 5, travel arrangements. If you all traveled before, a lot of the stuff that you would have seen when traveling or had to do when traveling would be applicable here. Your real life experience would be applicable here. So you look at the logistics, the bureaucracy, so like the certain restrictions where you'll need health, clearance and visas, accommodation. So when you're traveling, have some seemingly obvious things you have to take into account. For one, you have to determine when you're traveling. So if I have to travel for a meeting on the 5th of March, what's the latest I should reach there? I say I have to travel to Jamaica on the 5th of March. What's the latest I should reach Jamaica? Do you think I should reach Jamaica on the 5th of March?
34.
Mm-hmm. Should reach at least a day before. You'll have to look at the time you're arriving. If it's a direct flight, if it's connecting flights. If it's possible, the price, if that's avoidable at least. And you have to look at the mode of transport. If I'm going to Tobago, for example, I have the option of taking the ferry. But if I need to reach there quickly, I wouldn't. I would take the plane. So all those things you could consider when you're deciding how you're going to travel. Now when you're traveling, according to where you're traveling to, you may have some additional requirements. So for one, certain countries require you to have certain vaccinations. Most countries now include COVID-19 in that lineup. Right? So a lot of countries, for you to travel, you need to have your COVID-19 vaccine. Some countries require you to get a visa. Anybody knows the difference between a passport and a visa?
The passport is like a form of ID and the visa is for to it's like something that you could use to enter a country.
Right. So there's like 95% of what I wanted. The visa gives you permission to enter a specific country, and the passport shows that you have permission to travel. So the passport shows that your home country says that you could go on a plane and leave the country, or you could travel to the next country. And then the visa is given to you by the host country, saying that you have permission to enter it. Some countries require a visa, but not all. So if we were to go to Mexico from our Caribbean countries, we would not be required a visa. They've already given Caribbean countries permission to enter. If we were to go to America, though, we'd have to apply for a visa and try to get permission to enter the country. Now, some countries have their own rules and restrictions on what you can travel with and what you can't travel with. So when you're traveling, you'll have to do your little research and check to see if the country you're traveling to has any of those restrictions.
It is soon, everybody. Sorry for being late.
Good day, no problem. Now, one thing to know, your passport should be valid for at least 6 months in most cases. If it's 2 months or less, as a matter of fact, even if it's less than 6 months, according to where you're traveling, there's a chance that they might deny your boarding. They wouldn't stop you from buying a ticket, But when it's time to board the plane, they may stop you. So if you're traveling, try to have your passport at least 6 months beyond the expiration date, right? Have it 6 months before the expiration date minimum. Now the documents required to transfer for travel now. The most obvious one, passport, form of ID, and proves you have permission to travel. You can't travel with your ID or your driver's permit. Your national ID shows that you're a national of the country, but it doesn't show that you have permission to travel. Your driver's permit shows that you're a national of a country and you have permission to drive in the country, but it does not show that you have permission to travel. Only the passport shows that you are a national of a particular country and that you have permission to travel. Right? So once you're traveling to another country, you must have your passport. Again, some but not all require you to have a visa. Now, your visa is not an additional document. Your visa will be a stamp on your passport showing that you have permission. The separate document might be a vaccine card showing that you have gotten certain vaccines and the date you got it, which will allow you to travel to some countries. Once you have those things, you should be good to go. Somebody else join in. Now, when you reach, as a matter of fact, before you reach, you have to plan for when you reach. So which hotel are you going to stay in? How are you going to get to the hotel? What business activities do you have to do? How are you going to get to those business activities? What you going to need? All those things you have to consider. So when you book in a hotel, you're going to be looking at the price. You're going to look at the proximity of the hotel to your meeting area. Because you don't want to stay in a hotel and then you have to drive 4 hours to go to your meeting. You're going to look at the package that the hotel is offering and look at whatever your package requirements are, whether it's breakfast only, if it's just the stay, if it's all inclusive. So according to what your requirements are, you're going to look at the review of the hotel to see if it got good reviews or bad reviews, so you know if you want to stay there or not. Or if your manager will want to stay there or not, if it's your manager that you're booking for. Then you'll need other information or other services. So for example, how are you going to reach to the hotel in the first place when you reach the airport? So you have to organize airport transfers to and from the airport. Because when you're leaving, you have to reach back to the airport again. Right? If you go into a country that speaks another language, a language that you don't know, you might need an interpreter. How are you going to go to the meeting? You might need a shuttle driver, or you might need to rent a car. You're gonna have to take all of these things into consideration when you're planning out your travel. Mhm. Anybody knows what the itinerary is? Don't you rush at once? Mhm. Let me call somebody specific then. Who should I specifically call? Kimura. Do you know what the itinerary is? Or have any idea? Or heard the word before?
No, sir.
Never heard it before?
No.
Alright. What about you, Maurice? You ever heard it before?
Yeah, sir, I heard it, but I can't remember what it means.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
like a schedule.
it's like
Schedule.
a schedule, a travel schedule. Exactly. Right? Outlining the different things you have to do for your travel. So what time you have to reach to the airport, what time your flight is, what time you'll be reaching the next country, what time your various meetings are. All those things will be outlined to help you keep track of all the different things you have to do. Make sure you arrive to your meetings on time. Make sure you arrive for your flights on time. All those different things to help you plan accordingly. Alright, so think of it as a travel schedule. Alright, try to include these things here: dates and times, the transport mode, accommodation, and details on the meetings. Right. It's much better to have a itinerary than you just go in with vibes. Right? Not on business trips. Right. So when you're buying a ticket to your boarding pass, no, before your boarding pass, when you're buying a ticket, you can get a physical ticket or you can get an e-ticket. It's always advisable to get an e-ticket. You cannot lose an e-ticket. You buy an e-ticket, it's sent to your email, you always have it. You could pull it up on your phone, show the person at the airport, boom, and you're good to go. You get your boarding pass. All right. Always confirm your accommodation before leaving. Trust me, confirm it before leaving. All right. So that time I reach the next country and the person was supposed to book my accommodation, didn't book it. And I almost get stranded in the country. Luckily, I was able to sort it out. Right? So always book your accommodation before leaving, beforehand, and make sure it's confirmed. Make sure and schedule your appointments accordingly. Do it in a way that will be as efficient as possible for if it's you that traveling or if it's somebody that you're planning it for. Schedule it so that the time will be used as efficiently as possible. And then you could create a travel folder with all the important documents to make sure you don't leave anything. So you have your passport, your tickets, your itinerary, maps if you need to, your hotel information, or hotel confirmations. So you have that all there. So in the event that your phone is lost and you lose all the digital information, you have your travel folder. Now, a lot of times you might see when you're traveling, you might see the 24-hour clock being used, right? It is to avoid mistakes and inaccuracies. Because somebody might watch 2 o'clock, say, hey, it's 2 o'clock, you're flying, and go to the airport 2 p.m., not realizing it was 2 a.m., and you miss your whole flight. So to avoid that, to make it less likely that things like that would happen, they use a 24-hour clock. Is there anybody here who's not aware of the 24-hour clock? Take the silence to me. No, we know the 24-hour clock real good. Right. So to convert from 24-hour clock to 12-hour clock, just subtract 12 from the time. So if it's 1500 hours, subtract 12 from 15, that's 3. That means 1500 hours is the same as 3 p.m. It's 2100 hours. You just subtract 12 from the 21, and that will give you 9. It's 9 o'clock. Right? Once the time is 12 and under, so say the time is 200 hours, that means it's 2 a.m. 900 hours, 9 a.m. Alright? Oh. Only kind of difference, I guess. Not really a difference, in my opinion. But one thing to note, 12 a.m. is 0 hours. 12 p.m. is 1200 hours. So, Annalise, you there?
Yes, sir.
What would be 12:30 p.m.?
Um,
What's it? I said 2:30, right?
no, you said 12:30.
Oh, sorry, 2:30 p.m.
It would be 1430 hours.
Alright, 14:30. Kyra, what would be 7 p.m.? Yes. Kyra?
Just ask it.
Mhm. I believe in you, Kyra.
19
Alright,
hours.
alright. Rahima, what would be 11 a.m.?
Sir,
11? What?
11 a.m.
Yeah,
1. Oh, no, still be 11.
right.
Because only PM this change.
Exactly.
And then only 12 a.m. will change.
Correct. All right, good. So it's important to know how to do that. And then it's also important to understand the different time zones. It's very important to understand your time zones if you're going from one country with one time zone to another country with another time zone. So for example, I'm gonna give you a little math something. Let's say we know England is 5 hours ahead of St. Lucia, right? If I need to reach England, for 5:30 p.m. as a matter of fact, for 17:30 hours. What time should I leave St. Lucia? The flight takes, let's say how long, let me check to see the exact time. How long does it take to fly from St. Lucia to England? How long is a flight from St. Lucia to England? 8 hours. The flight is 8 hours.
I think over here is like 12.
12 hours? Okay.
And then let me check.
It's 8 to 9 hours. So if we go in from St. Lucia to England, the flight is 9 hours, and England is 5 hours ahead
It's
of.
around the same time, but it depends on where we're going. Like if you're going to like London, it's 8 hours and 15 minutes. But if you're going to like Manchester, Birmingham, then it's 16. But the farthest to Manchester is 18 hours. Farthest to Birmingham is 16 hours.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So it's like
All right. I want you to calculate this on the board for me here. You need to reach England for 17:30 hours. The flight is 9 hours long. England is 5 hours ahead of St. Lucia. What time should I leave? I'm giving you all 2 minutes to calculate it for me. All right, so let's check it. I want to reach England 17:30 hours. The flight is 9 hours. If I leave 9 hours before, right? That would be what time? Anybody? Over minus 70 minus 9 is how much?
12:30 p.m.
12:30 p.m. Let's see. 17 minus 9 is actually 8. So that'll be 8:30 p.m., right? 8:30 a.m., sorry. Because 17:30 is p.m. So if I minus 9 hours from that, I'll be leaving 8:30 a.m. But if I leave 8:30, to make it easier for you all, I'm going to convert this one time, right? 17:30 is, oh, that's what you meant when you say 5:30. 5:30, right? 5 hours before, 9 hours before 5:30 would be 8:30 a.m. But if I leave 8:30 a.m., I would arrive 5:30 p.m. in St. Lucia. But England is 5 hours ahead. So in England, it would be 10:30 p.m. when I'm now arriving. So I cannot leave at 8:30. I have to adjust for the 5 hour difference. So I have to leave 5 hours earlier, which is 3:30. So I would have to leave St. Lucia 3:30 a.m. if I want to reach England at 17:30 p.m. because I have to take into account the 9 hour flight and the 5 hour difference between England and St. Lucia. So that's 14 hours I have to take into account. You'll understand how I got the 3:30, or you want me to do it again? Do it again?
Yes, sir. You can repeat it, please, because I think I checked something wrong.
No problem. So, oh gosh, I erased the whole thing. So, I want to reach in England. I erased the whole thing again. At 17:30 hours, which is 5:30 p.m. The flight is 9 hours long. So, if I leave 9 hours before, that means I'll be leaving 8:30 a.m., right? It's 9 hours before 5:30 p.m. It's 8:30 a.m. But if I leave 8:30 a.m., the 5:30 p.m. I'll be reaching is St. Lucian time. England is 5 hours ahead of St. Lucia. So when I reach England, it wouldn't be 5:30, it will be 10:30 p.m., which is 5 hours after. So I can't just leave 9 hours earlier. I have to take into account the fact that England is 5 hours ahead of St. Lucia. So I'll have to leave an extra 5 hours earlier. That's why I have to leave 3:30 a.m. to reach for 5:30 p.m.
Sir.
Yeah, they all good now? So when you're calculating how long, what time you have to leave, that's the two things you have to take into account. The time difference and the length of the flight. Right. Well, may you just delete this one on the board. Right. Now let us look at the different ways we can make payments when we travel. Right? The worst one, or must not say worst one, because it have some convenient stuff with it. But the highest risk one is cash, by far. Hmm. If you lose your cash gone. Right? Nothing stopping anybody else from using your cash. Debit cards and credit cards now a little safer. Somebody thief your debit card or your credit card, you can call the bank and have the cards cancelled. Right? That's if they could even access it without your PIN.
Girl, I had a question. Would the online banking be one of the safest though?
Yes and no, because some places don't take online banking. Right?
Well,
You
that's
go to
true.
the restaurant to buy something to eat, they're not gonna accept online banking. You go to the store to buy clothes, they're not gonna accept online banking. Right? So some places
Girl,
won't
over here,
accept it.
so over here, I think they hardly accept online banking, but some places they also don't accept cash.
Mm-hmm. So cash is the most widely accepted one. And there's no fees you have to pay for using cash. So there's great benefits of using cash. That's why people still travel with cash. But it's very risky. You lose your cash or your cash is stolen, there's no getting it back. Your debit card or credit card, it's stolen, you can call and cancel it. However, you will have to pay extra fees for using it, and you have to make sure nobody can get your information and steal your money. Mhm. Now, the letter of credit is basically the bank. You get a letter from a bank guaranteeing that they'll be able to transfer money to the business. That's good for large business transactions. So you're going away for business, and you have to make some big business transaction with a large amount of money. Letter of credit is good. But again, you're not gonna go buy food and give them a letter of credit. You're not gonna accept that. A bank draft, think of a bank draft as a check, but it's a check that you could use foreign currency on. So this is safer because only the persons who named on the draft could actually use the bank draft, right? But that is good only if you know certain payments that you have to make in advance. And you'll have to go to the bank to take it out, and you'll have fees to pay. And while there's mobile cash, a lot of places accept that, but not all. For example, right here in Trinidad, we don't have Apple Pay. Right? So if you're traveling and you need this regular spending money, the two best would be the debit card / credit card and cash. It wouldn't be recommended to have all your money in cash, and it wouldn't be recommended to have all your money on your debit and credit card. Because there will be some places that do not accept debit and credit card or credit card, but they also want the safety of the debit and credit card. So you'll have some money cash, but most of your money in the debit and credit card. If you know of payments that you have to make in advance, then you could use your letter of credit and your bank draft. If you know you're going away, and the reasons you're going away is to finalize a certain payment that you have to make, you could take out the bank draft first and pay it. According to what country in, and if you have access to it, the mobile currency is always good as well. Let's take a roaming plan so you could access it anyway. Oh. Alright. Let's see. You're going on a short trip. Recommend debit card, small amount of cash. The main stuff, you use your debit card. The things you can't use your debit card for, the cash handles. You're going on an international business trip. You could have a credit card and bank draft. The credit card, the bank draft will cover any advance payments you knew about from before. The credit card could handle the large fees, like the stay at the hotel and stuff like that. The smaller fees, the cash handle it. And if you have any emergency, the cash handles it as well. And you're good to go. Next option, in a remote area where it's difficult to get Wi-Fi and anything like that, then mostly cash. Because there's a chance that your debit card and credit card may not be able to be read according to where you are. And then a mobile transfer wouldn't be an option either. Let's take a look at this example. The CEO is flying from St. Lucia to England for a conference. First thing, book flight, a secure accommodation that's close to the conference. Make sure your check is 6 months. Yeah, let me check. Your passport is 6 months or more. Their passport is 6 months or more, and they have their visa. You calculate the time frame. Make sure they're not reaching too late for the meeting, or they have enough time to settle in, whatever the case may be. And then they make sure that they have access to whatever funds they need. If it's a credit card they need, if it's cash, a debit card, whatever it is, they have the corporation card with them. They have whatever foreign currency they need. When you check the passport stuff and the visa, you're also going to check any health requirements. If there's any vaccines that you need to have and sort out, and make sure once you have it, that you have proof that you have it. Once you book in the hotel, you're going to organize the car rental and the airport transfers if necessary. The documents, you will create the travel folder so you could put all the important stuff there, including the itinerary. So you'll see what time the meetings are and where it's located and all those different things. Once you do all that, you'll have no problems at the end. You'll find travel is a hot topic.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
My opinion is pretty easy.
Just need to sharpen up on the time difference, that's all.
Mm-hmm. It's a little practice and you'll have it. All right, so it's 12:07. Let's start back at 12:20. And we're going to look at records and information management. All right, now we're going to look at records and information management. So let's take a look at the life cycle of records, right? You start off by creating a record, of course. So it could be an invoice, a report, a letter, any sort of document. From there, you store it. So if it's a physical document, you might store it in a filing cabinet. If it's a digital one, you'll store it in some sort of digital device, right? Hard drive, flash drive, whatever the case may be. And you make sure when you store it, it's coded in some way. So you'll be able to retrieve it if you need to. Which is the next step. Retrieve it. So whenever you need to use it, you'll have to request access to it. We'll make sure it's known that you are using it. And then when it's no longer needed, you either dispose of it, as in destroy it, or you archive it. Meaning you save it somewhere off-site in case you may ever need it again in the future. So once you're using it often, you won't archive it. When you're no longer using it often, that's when you'll archive. You'll store it somewhere else. So it won't take up too much space in your business. Until you're ready to dispose of it. Let's look at what a good office administration, a good records management system would do. All right, so one, you'll be able to access it. Only those who should have accessed it would be able to access it. So you'll have certain procedures in place on how somebody could view and access the information. It will be secure. It'll have some form of security to it, making it safe and stopping people who don't have access to it from accessing it. It should be able to expand if needed. It shouldn't be too difficult to make it larger. And it should have some form of accountability attached. So if somebody using any records, you should be able to find out who used any records. So if records get lost or damaged, it should be easy to find out who did it. Good, efficient records management systems will have those things in place. Now, when you file any information, there's different methods you could use to file it. The most common one is in alphabetical order. So all the files are names, and it file them in order of the alphabet. So Abigail is in front of Jesse. Because Abigail starts with A, Jesse starts with G. Or you could file based on the geographical location. So based on where the information is about, you could file there. So all the South information together, or all the information about Trinidad together, and you have a branch in Tobago, all the information about Tobago together. And that is how you file it. Or if the file names are numerical, you file it in order of numbers. So file number 5 would be in front of file number 68. Or chronological order. Chronological order will be based on time, so based on the date. You have multiple options. However, when you're filing based on alphabetical order, and some procedures I don't know, right? Have no getting around it. So it's actually your surname first, then your first name, then your middle name. Did you all know that? When you're filing names,
Yes, sir.
right? First name, surname, then first name, then middle name. Then we have other things you have to take into account. Like every person has a title. How do we account for it? If they have a suffix or a prefix, if they have middle names, if they have the same name, there are different rules that we have to follow for filing. Let's take a look at some of them. 。 I didn't put these in the PowerPoint because it was a lot, but I will send it to you separate, right? So we know you file the last name, then first name, then middle name, right? You file them based on the last name first. So whichever one is closer to A, you file that one first. If the last names are identical, then you look at the first names. If last name and middle name, if last name and first name are identical, then you look at the middle name. Now, let's say you have a title. Let's say you're a priest. So your name is Father something. Or you're a sister. Or a doctor. All of those titles, you ignore them when you're filing. So you see this example here. Dr. Samuel Jones is just filed as Jones, comma, Samuel. Nothing else. Right? All titles are ignored. Any suffixes, so your name is Michael Jones Jr. You're ignoring the junior as well. And your name will just be Jones, comma, Michael. The only exception, and it's not really an exception, if you have two identical names, then you would use junior and senior to decide which one will be put first. So if you have a junior and a senior, the senior will be last. If you have no suffix at all, that will be first, followed by junior, then senior. If the name is hyphenated, hyphenated names count as one name. So Taylor Jones, Mary Taylor Jones. Taylor Jones is the surname. So her surname starts with T. So in the filing it will be Taylor Jones, comma, Mary. So far, is there any rule that anybody doesn't understand?
No, sir.
Good. Now, when you have compound surnames, Van der Sar, Van der Weave, Van Winkle, whatever the name is, the entire thing is his surname again. So you're going in that order. So Van der, Peter Van der Merve, you'll put Peter as the first name. You'll put Van der Werve as the surname, sorry. Then comma, Peter. McDonald, MacDonald, the whole name is considered the surname. So that will be starting with MC. If it's McDonald, that will be MAC. All of it is part of the name. Nothing always comes before something. So if your name is J. Smith, and there's a John Smith, J will go before John. So now comparing J. Smith and John Smith, I'll look at the J's, both are the same, but then John's second letter is O. J doesn't have a second letter. J has nothing. Nothing will go before something. So J. Smith will be in front of John Smith. Everybody give it those rules? Everybody think they understand them?
Yes, sir.
Now there is names of people. Now it's our rules with business names now. See how much rules it have. So the entire name is written out. So you don't have to change the order or anything like that. If your name is Computer Hardware Limited, you file in it as Computer Hardware Limited. Nothing always comes before something. So look at this example here. They have ABC hardware and then ABC hardware supply. The ABC is the same, the hardware is supply, the hardware is the same, but then one of them has supply and the other has nothing. The one with nothing will be filed before the one with something. If the business begins with the name with the word the, a, and, ignore those words. So it wouldn't be filed under the, it wouldn't be filed under T. So the best bakery will be filed under B. Best bakery. If you have any apostrophes, any hyphens, any sort of punctuation, you're ignoring it. Now this one, very important. If your business, the name of the business is a number, has a number in it, you are spelling out the number. And you're filing it based on the spelling of the number. That's very, very important. They love to bring a question where you have to put the stuff in order. And one of the businesses, the name is a number, and people don't know where to file it. You have to spell out the number, and you're filing based on the spelling of the number. Mhm. If you have single letters, like A1 steak sauce, the A would be a word. The one would be the second word. So it'll be the letter A. Then you would spell out the number, because remember we spell out our numbers. A1 steak sauce. Conjunctions. If they use the sign, like they use the and sign here, for example, you're spelling out the word. And for geographical businesses, or businesses with the location in the name. So Trinidad Shopping Plaza. You're filing it as a Trinidad Shopping Plaza to be filed under T. Mhm. For you'll do that after. Actually, no, could do it one time. When you're filing geographical location now, and you have to file in alphabetical order, remember, nothing comes before something. So look at New York and Newark. New York is Newark. Newark is New York is Newark. Two words. New York is Newark. Both of them start with New. But then Newark has a next letter, A. New York doesn't. New York has a next word after. So when you're comparing the first words in the business, New York would have A after the new, and New York would have nothing. And nothing always goes before something. So New York would be filed before Newark. And that nothing before something rule is very important. It applies quite frequently. Yes, Chanel?
But you now say that New York is considered one word, right?
No,
New York.
Newark, Newark would be one word. New York would be two words.
Oh, okay, well, I
Yeah,
hear wrong, but
I probably spoke bad. My apologies. Oh,
that's
so when
okay.
you're filing them, you'll compare the first words with each other and then the second words. New York only has one word, New York has two. But when you compare the first words, the new and the New York has a A after the new, and New York has nothing after new. And nothing always comes before something. So when you're filing it, you'll put New York in front of Newark. Everybody good, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, just making sure. So now we're going to look at the Human Resource Department. Right? We would look at records and information management after. Right, so the Human Resource Department focuses on the employees. Hence the name Human Resources, right? Because the employees are literally the human resource of the organization. All right, so we're going to try to understand. Oh gosh. We're going to try to understand how the organization hires its members, how to apply and all those different things, the application process, and the different labor laws that we have to navigate. Now, we reach the part of the syllabus where we will be looking at different departments. Every time we look at a different department, we will look at the functions of that department and the role of a clerk in that department. That will always be the first two parts of the syllabus for each section. So here, these are some of the functions of the Human Resource Department. They have to hire people. So recruitment. They have to orient them into the business, the induction. They have to protect their workers. So they look out for the staff's welfare, to like their benefits and stuff like that. You'll make sure that they are physically safe and compliant with the law, the OSHA Act. Any type of disciplinary action is needed, they will handle it. They will create the job descriptions for employees. They are the ones who will assign roles to staff. They will appraise their performance. They will provide training when needed. Anything you could think of that relates to employees, you check the Human Resource Department. So if you're a clerk in the Human Resource Department, these will be some of your duties, right? You'll maintain records of employees. You'll assist in the interview preparation. You'll help facilitate staff welfare. You'll prepare any documents that are requested by staff. You'll assist HR, any functions related to staff. And there's one duty, the one function of the HR department that is not here. That is a function of every department. And that is liaising with other departments. So that's
Hi,
one thing to keep in mind. So, yeah?
excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to step out for about a half an hour, so because I am on work.
Okay, no problem at all.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Now for the attributes of a clerk in the HR department. One, you will be privy to a lot of private information on staff members. You have to be able to keep that information confidential and private. If you know that is not you, don't go into HR. You have to have a lot of patience. You'll have a lot of employee queries and stuff to handle. You can't lose your patience. A huge part of your job is communication, written and oral. You have to have good communication skills. And then remember, you will be dealing with disciplinary issues. You will be dealing with conflict. You have to have tact. You have to be able to handle these situations delicately and skillfully. Mhm. So let's look at how do we get our team members as a business, right? Where do people who are looking for jobs look? Now, if they're already in the business and they're looking for like a new job within the business or promotion, they could look at some internal sources like companies' newsletters, or you could just use personal contact, just talk to the person because you're inside the business. You might say information about internships. Externally now. Sources outside the information might be newspapers. Online, you might see it on social media or on their websites. Employment agencies, there are some government employment agencies, and then there's private employment agencies, and even the Sin and Associates. You could go on certain websites like CaribbeanJobs.com, or you might go to a guidance counselor. Mhm. So businesses now, when they're looking for people, they would advertise in these different places because you know that that's where people who are looking for jobs would look. Mhm. All right. So let's look at what a job offer would have. You should see the job description and the job specification. The job description would have the tasks and responsibilities that you have to do if you get the job. The job specification would be what qualifications and what skills and qualities you need to possess in order to carry out the job. You'll understand the difference?
Yes.
All right. So when somebody is deciding if they want a job or not, not only do they have to take those two things into account, they have other things to take into account as well, like their career interests. I am qualified to be an accountant. Do I want to pursue a career in accounting, or do I want to be a teacher? The opportunities for advancement. If I take this job, is there any chance that I could get a promotion or not? The image of the firm. I like to prefer to promote health and wealth. One of my biggest things. Do I want to work for a tobacco company? And qualifications. I want to actually, you know what? I want to be an accountant. But do I have all the qualifications needed? The salary. I don't think I even have to talk about that. I think everybody will be studying the salary. Are they offering me enough? Do I want is there enough benefits if I take this job? Or is there more benefits than another job? The location. Don't be like me. Going to work in the west, but living in south. So you would want to get a location that's easily accessible for you. Mm. Mhm. You will consider all of these things, and then you will decide for yourself if you want to apply for that particular job or not. Now, how do you apply? First thing first, you need to do up your application letter or your cover letter or fill out an application form. Some companies have their own application forms that you just have to fill out when you're applying. Others, you'll have to create your own application letter, which is called a cover letter. In cover letter, you'll introduce yourself, state what job you're applying for, and why you believe you are a good fit for the job. You'll leave some means for them to contact you and let them know that you're willing to come in for an interview. Now, attached to your cover letter or your application form will be either a resume or a curriculum vitae, which is CV for short. A resume will be a small summary of all your qualifications and education and stuff that is pertaining to the job that you're applying for. And the CV will be more or less the same or similar information, but based on the entire history. Say entire work history, the entire education history, any other accomplishment you have, like if you wrote a book or published a book, any other languages you could speak, any other certificates you may have, doesn't matter if it's pertaining to the job you're applying to or not. The CV tends to be larger than the resume, and the CV is more used by like professionals when they're applying for their jobs. Attached to your CV and your resume, you will have a list of people that the employer could contact to get additional information about you. You call them references. So they're basically giving the employer further information on your character to help them make a better decision on if they should hire you or not. Now, some people, according to the job, may use a portfolio. A portfolio will be used let's say you are a, let's call it again, boy, photographer. So you want to show them some of your work that you do or artist. Your portfolio will contain samples of the work that you do. So all or a combination of some of these things will be sent when persons are applying for a job. Alright, so you send an application form or a cover letter, a resume or a CV, and any resume on the CV will have references. Some jobs, according to what you're applying for, may also have your portfolio attached, sampling some of the work that you did. So you send your application in. The employer looks at all the applicants, and then there's something called shortlisting. They pick out who they consider the best out of the bunch. And you are among them. And they give you a call and tell you to come into an interview. What happens in that process? And one of the first things you should do is research that company. Make sure you understand the company, what they sell, what their goals are. We need to know their location. All those things. Get information. Reason being, chances are they're gonna ask you some questions about it in the interview. And it would be really good to know what kind of answers you might be looking for when they're interviewing you. And if you know what kind of company they are and you have information, you might have a better idea of the kind of employee that they're looking for. And according to what you're applying for, make sure and work with your portfolio if you didn't send it in already. But all the stuff that you put on your resume, like your qualifications and stuff, work with your proof. See, you have certificates and stuff like that. Get it ready for when you go to the interview, you're going with that. After you research the company, you know where it is, you understand what products and stuff they sell, the goals, the ambitions, the things they value, and you have all the certificates ready. You make sure you have a professional outfit to wear for the interview. When you go to the interview, you don't show signs of weakness. You show confidence. Firm handshakes. Sit up straight. Eye contact. And prepare in your mind certain answers for questions that you could expect them to ask you. Where you expect to be in 5 years? Why do you want to work for this company? Tell me about yourself. Questions that you know interviewers love to ask. Now, if it's virtual, the last thing you want to do is be on a virtual call and you can't say it properly because you don't have a good internet setting. So if it's a digital one, make sure you have a good proper working connection. So you don't fall in have issues like that. And you'll be good to go. It's always good before, if you never did it before, some point in time, see if we could do like a mock interview. Try to get the idea, well, feel how it does be before you enter the real working world. Mhm. Now, when you get the job now, because we assuming you're getting hired, you're gonna have to learn about all of the internal rules and regulations that you'll be expected to follow. Mhm. You'll also have to learn about all the legal requirements by law that you'll also be expected to follow. Mhm. And then last but not least, every organization would have their own culture. You'd have to learn about theirs. Mhm. Now there's literal law in place that is there to protect workers. If you are in human resource, you need to know about these laws because again, the workers are your main focus, right? So for example, you need to know the minimum wage requirements. You need to know the proper procedure to dismiss an employee. You can't just fire people just so. You need to know the discrimination laws. When it's time to set up the workplace, you need to know the OSHA Act. So you need to know um what requirements every office needs to have, like for example, the fire safety drills, the um muster points, the different training employees need to have depending on the job they're doing. Their right to refuse to work if the environment is deemed unsafe. According to the job again, you'll need to know the ILO conventions. You'll need to know the standards for safety wear for workers. And you'll need to know about workmen's compensation. And then you'll need to know about unions and any agreements you have with trade unions. If you're in human resource department, anything pertaining to the human resources, to the employees, you need to be aware of. Right? So for employees, their benefits would be they making sure they're getting fair treatment. You'll have less accidents if you're following the OSHA Act. You'll be compensated fairly, and your morale will be improved because of all these things. You see, the company taking care of you and doing right by you in exchange for you performing your services. Right. Now, some other paperwork that employees may need to do. Let's say you need to apply to take the day off. They may have a leave form that you'll have to sign. You'll have to state the type of leave or how long it is. Most forms of leave have to be submitted in advance. So if it's vacation, you have to submit it well in advance. If it's sick leave, they won't expect you to put it in advance because it's not like you know when you're gonna get sick. If it's bereavement, that's when a close family member passes away, your sister, brother, spouse, parent, child, they wouldn't expect you to do that in advance as well. Right? But vacation leave, study leave, things like that, you'd expect you to apply for it early. Right? You normally have a certain amount of days to take for sick leave and vacation leave that will vary from company to company. Resignation letter now. This is when you decide you no longer want to work in a company. It is normally required to do it from 2 weeks to 1 month in advance. It may vary from company to company. They would mention it in the initial contract. Alright, they will express when it this will be you formally informing the company that you're leaving. You'll state when the last day is and um a suggestion, especially if you're writing it for exam, try to keep it polite. You don't want to burn your bridges. You don't want a next employer to call there to find out about you, and you had custom up in your resignation letter, so they come and they bad talk you with the potential employer. Right? Now, acknowledgement letters. Let's say HR sends you um let's say you give HR a document. Let's say you give them your resignation letter, for example, or you apply for leave. They would send you an acknowledgement letter letting you know that it was received. Right. Take a look at labor turnover now. Do you know what labor turnover means? Anybody knows what is meant by labor turnover? No? Or you're shy to answer? Let me call somebody name. Joyanne, do you know what labor turnover is? Or Rahima, do you know what labor turnover is?
Um, is it like dealing with what's it called? Labor workers
Mm-hmm.
and then the amount, like how much they get paid, or
Mm-hmm. Now how much
like
you
how
get?
much they get paid in a period of time?
Now how much you get paid? Um,
Uh,
I see Annalise hand up.
is it like what? I think I remember what it was. Like when an employee leaves a place,
Right. So it's
and
how
then
often
the
employees
organization
leave.
will go replace them over this period of time.
Right. So it's how often they leave. So the turnover looks at how often um organizations have to replace their workers. All right. So if it's high, is that good or bad? What do you think? If you have to replace your workers very often, would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
A bad thing.
Right. It will be a bad thing, right? There must be a reason for it that you'll have to fix. Because ideally, you want to keep your workers for a long time. Because it's have a learning curve where they'll now be learning the culture of the business, now learning the job and all the ins and outs. And just when they learn it and the production increase, they leave. And then you have to start the whole process over with somebody new. Could be frustrating and it wouldn't be good for the company. So it's good to try, if you have a high labor turnover, to try and assess why that's the case. Or even if you have a low turnover, you still want to assess the various areas to make sure it never becomes a high turnover. And some of the things are within your control if you're in the human resource department, and some of the things are um outside of your control. So for example, the working conditions. If you have poor working conditions, there's a high possibility of people leaving. So all you have to do is improve them. If the salary is too low or not adequate for the amount of work that's being done, raise the salary appropriately. If the tasks are boring, try to give them new tasks. Give them a project to work on with other people. If they don't have enough training opportunities, improve the amount of training opportunities. Right? And now this one may not want to fix, whatever a position may become redundant, meaning it's no longer needed. So let's say you get a new AI and the AI doing the job the person was doing before, that person's job will now become redundant and they could get let go. And the HR department could control those things if they need to. But then there's external factors that they can't really control. So the state of the economy. When COVID-19 hit, the HR department couldn't go and find a cure for it or something so they could work normally. It hit. So they just had to work with it to suit. Or if other jobs are offering better opportunities, better places, only so much the HR department could do. Yes. If there's a lot of competition for jobs, or lack of competition for jobs, or if people are migrating a lot, these things the HR department can really control. So what the HR department needs to do is look at the things that they can control and control it as much as possible, improve it, and look at the things that they can't control and see how well they could navigate it. Alright, so that's a quick recap. Right, you know the roles and the functions of the HR department, the duties of a clerk in the HR department, going through the different laws. Went through how people could apply, what's the process, some of the other documents are used in HR, looked at labor turnover, and I think you should be able to answer the HR question that comes. Alright, so you're gonna look at the financial department, or the finance department. Right, so again, you look at the functions of the department, and then we look at the duties of a clerk in the department. One of the most important functions, my humble opinion, is that first one. Better pay me. And that's payroll. So they will organize the salaries and the wages for workers, the deductions that's supposed to come out of the salary, sending the workers the pay slips to see how much money they get in and what deductions coming out. All of that is done by the finance department. They do credit control. So they would look at people who buying on credit, making sure that they paying on time, making sure that the company is paying their credit stuff on time as well. People who owing for too long, they will try to pursue it to get their money. And to have collections of accounts, so they'll be receiving the payments that they owing, that they being owed, giving out receipts to show that they received the payments. They would have to prepare for audits. So audit is when someone called an auditor will come into the company to look at your financial statements to make sure they show a true and fair view. They will manage all of the company's bank accounts, They will prepare budgets. They'll prepare financial statements. They'll put in controls in place to help prevent fraud. All of these things will be done by the finance department. Then we look at the duties of a clerk in the finance department and their attributes. All of the departments will follow that very same structure, right? Functions and then the duties of a clerk. So the clerk will be the one who writes up checks. They will do bank reconciliation or reconciling of any accounts. So when it have two different accounts that is supposed to have the same information, they will compare them to make sure there's no errors. They will prepare things like ledgers, which will have records of financial transactions. They will prepare statement of accounts, which will show how much payments clients made and how much they have owing and stuff like that. They will prepare something called a cash book, which records all the cash and bank transactions. They will obviously prepare payroll, calculate it and prepare it. And they will prepare financial statements like an income statement, which shows how much profit you're making and stuff like that. Now, in the accounts department, you're going to be dealing with a lot of money. So you need to be honest if you're working in the accounts department. All right. You're also going to be privy to a lot of confidential information. You have to be able to keep information private, and you have to be reliable so you're not making mistakes and you're meeting the deadlines. Because not meeting deadlines could lead to the company getting fined. Now there's some documents that you will need to know that relate to the finance department. For example, a payslip will have information on what an employee was paid, their salary, the deductions, and so forth. A check is an order to the bank to pay money from your account to whoever's name is on the check. You have a statement of account, which is a summary of a customer's transactions. You'll see how much the money they were owing, how much payments they made, how much they have outstanding, and so forth. Right. Currency memorandum will show you the exact amount of different notes and coins needed to pay wages. You'll have credit notes and debit notes. Credit notes are used when goods are returned. So somebody return goods to you, you will issue them a credit note to show that the goods were returned. A debit note is used when something is not charged effectively, not charged properly. So I send you a document saying that you owe me 500, but then you usually owe me 600. I will send you a debit note for the extra 100 to let you know you're still owing me that amount. So debit note would mean that you're owing me more. A credit note will mean you're owing me less, because if you return the good, you're no longer owing me for the good. Alright, so there are some software that you might use in accounting and some hardware. So the hardware that you might use in the accounts department will be like calculators, because you'll have a lot of calculating to be dealing with numbers. You would have computers and scanners. You'll have point of sale terminals like cash registers and stuff like that. And then that information will be transferred to your software stuff, like your accounting software. Like for example, there's something called QuickBooks, where you just put the information into the software and it'll automatically do up all your financial statements and stuff like that. Or you could do your budgeting in your Excel sheets and so forth. Right. Now we're just taking a look at the various financial institutions that we'll be operating in. Right. So you have your commercial banks. And if you did POB, you should know about all of these things here. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, everybody here would have done POB. Chanel, did you do POB?
Yes, sir.
Alright. So everybody should know about a commercial bank where you can make deposits and take loans, issue checks. You should know about the central bank, which is like the big boss for financial institutions. They regulate the money supply, they print notes and coins, they create the regulations and rules that the other banks have to abide by. You should know about credit unions. It's owned by its members. And unlike the commercial bank who trying to make a profit, the credit union trying to benefit its members. You should know about insurance companies that give you financial protection against the risk of certain things that could happen. You should know about investment companies. You should know about foreign exchange, mortgage companies, offshore institutions. You should know about most of these financial institutions already that the accounts department will be communicating with. Maybe not all of these, but at least some of them. Now, how do we pay? Right? We can pay them manually. And the two main ways you pay manually is by cash or check. Right? Yes, you could do postal orders and bank drafts, but realistically, the two common ways you would pay workers by physically would be cash or check. Or you're paying anything, cash or check. If you're paying internationally, then it may be the postal order and the bank draft. Now, for digital payments, you have the debit card or credit card. You can do standing orders. You can do electronic transfer like with online banking. You can do letters of credit, which is basically a bank guaranteeing that the payment would be made. Or you could use your mobile money like Apple Pay or PayPal if you have access to it. Now, these are the different types of checks. I would really like you all to make sure and go through these, right? Um, the ones that they speak about the most are open checks, cross checks, certified checks, or manager's checks. And well, you should know what a post-dated and a stale-dated check is. So open check is anybody could cash it over the counter, right? It's the least safest one. Do an open check like that, at least put the person's name. Right? The cross check normally has two parallel lines running through the check, not the entire check, but through part of the check. And once it's crossed, it means that you must deposit it into the account. And that would stay in your account for about 4 days before the cash is released into your account. About 4 working days. A certified check or a manager's check, this guarantees payment. So for me to take out a manager's check, let's say I'm taking out a manager's check of $1,000 to pay to Kyra, I have to go pay $1,000 for the check. The manager will do up the check, sign it, and then I can give it to the person. So that person know for sure they're getting that money because I actually paid the 1,000 and put the 1,000 aside specifically for this check. Right? A post-dated check is simply a check that is dated in the future. So I give Tanisha a check and I put the date as August the 5th. She cannot cash the check until it's August the 5th. A stale dated check is a check that is now null and void because 6 or more months have passed before you cash the check. So if you give me a check on the 1st of January and we reach the 2nd of July, that check is no longer valid. You call it stale dated. Hmm. So once you put a cross on the check, you can no longer cash it, right? You have to deposit it. Now, if the cross has a specific bank in it, that means it could only deposit it at that particular bank. If you don't have an account in that bank, you gotta open one. If it doesn't have a specific bank in it, and it just has payee or something like that in it, then it could deposit it in any bank. But it still must be deposited. Right. Now, the cash book is an accounting record that keeps track of all our cash and bank transactions, right? So whenever we get money or we spend money, we record it in the cash book. If we get money, we record it on the left side of the cash book, and we call that the debit side. When we spend money, we record it on the right side of the cash book, and we call that the credit side. So you get money, you debit. You spend money, you credit. Right? Let's look at the bank part of this cash book only. We're looking at all the transactions that coming in and out of your bank account. Where else would have a record of all the money going in and out of your bank account?
So the
Anybody?
general ledger,
I'll give you a hint. It's not your company.
The bank
The
itself.
bank itself would have a record of all the money coming in and out of your bank account. And they would put it on something called a bank statement. So generally, your bank statement and a cash book supposed to have the same information when it comes to the bank. But that is not always the case. In most cases, actually not the case. And you as the accountant needs to go through both of them to see why there are the differences to make sure there's no errors or fraud or anything happening. And the process of doing that is called bank reconciliation. You're comparing a cash book and a bank account to see what's causing the difference and why. Right? So in the cash book, when you get money, you debit. When you spend money, you credit. And the bank statement is the opposite. For the bank statement, money that you're getting will be on the credit side, money that you're spending will be on the debit side. Right? So now there are certain things that could happen that could cause the cash book and the bank statement to be different. For example, every month you get charged something called bank fees. That is a fee that the bank does charge you for using all their facilities. You as the accountant won't know what the bank fees are until you get the bank statement. So that would always cause a difference between the cash book and the bank statement. Another example, some of the fees happen automatic. Let's say you set up a standing order A standing order is an order to the bank to pay money from your bank account to our next account periodically, normally every month. You could forget about that payment and not record it in the cash book, but the bank wouldn't forget, and they would record it in their bank statement, and that could cause a difference. And so there's a few things that could cause differences between the cash book and the bank statement. That does not mean that there's an error or fraud. When you do bank reconciliation, you have to try and compare both and find the differences. Right? So when you're doing bank reconciliation, you'll have to check to see the differences between the cash book and the bank statement. So you'll most likely start looking for things that's in the bank statement, but not in the cash book. Right. Once you find the differences, you'll create something called an updated cash book. And the updated cash book will be basically you taking everything that you found in the bank statement and putting it into the new cash book. And then you'll prepare something called a bank reconciliation statement. Right? So what I will do, I will send you all a little recording on how to do bank reconciliation so you can get to see it in a little detail. Right? Same thing with the petty cash book. So some companies, to avoid using their main bank account to make small transactions, like you're going into your bank account that have millions of dollars, and you're using the credit card or the debit card attached to it to buy bleach for $10. To avoid stuff like that, they will prepare something called petty cash, which is a small amount of cash that will be held in the office to use for small transactions. And to record these small transactions, you'll put it into a accounting journal known as the petty cash book. Right? It is very easy to record in, even if you didn't do accounting. And I will share a video on how to do your petty cash book as well. So if you did POA, you should know how to do bank reconciliation and the petty cash book already. Right? Those two things and payroll is the last thing you may need to know how to do when it comes to the finance department, which is also very easy. And I already have a video for that as well. So I will share those videos where it goes into a lot of detail on how to do it, how to do all three. I don't see them bringing it for exam, but it's still good to know just in case, right? I haven't seen them bring it for exam in a while, but it's still good to know just in case. So I will share those three videos with you all and you all could go through it at your own speed whenever you want to, whenever you don't want to. If you have any questions on them, just message me. Right. Alright, the last thing we will cover now is the management information, records and information management. Alright, so now we're going to look at records and information management. It is a topic that comes fairly often. Few things you have to know is the life cycle of records, right? So, first part, you create the record. And it's kind of self-explanatory that that'll be the first part. Whatever the record may be, it may be a document like a receipt or a report, an invoice, a letter, whatever it is, it will be created. Then you would code, index, and store it based on the name of the document, the purpose of it, You'll make sure and store it somewhere that is easily retrievable so that the next part could happen. The document is retrieved. So that means anybody who needs to use it for anything, who actually is supposed to have access to it, can get access to it. And then you'll put it back. You retrieve it again, put it back, retrieve it again, put it back. And then when it's no longer needed, you're going to dispose of it. You're either going to destroy it or archive it. Meaning you're going to save it somewhere offsite. It no longer needs to be close by if you're not using it regularly. So you'll either archive it, which means you will store it somewhere offsite elsewhere, or you'll just destroy it completely. Right. Now let's look at a good information management system, right? A good information management system would have access protocols, meaning not just anybody could access it. Only the people who supposed to have access to files should be able to access it, right? There should be rules on who could and how you access the files. There should be some form of accountability attached to it. So you should always know if somebody took a file, you should always know who took it and when. That way, if something happens to any of the files, you know what happened, you know who to go by. They should have some form of security, whether it is physical security, so you have like locks and keys that you're using, codes to access it, or if it's digital, you have passwords. Whatever the case may be, you need to have some form of security. Mhm. And it should be created in a way that if needed, you can expand it. Now let's look at the different ways we could classify our information, and then we're going to take a larger look at one of them. So when you're filing your information, you could file it in alphabetical order, or you could use geographical based on the location, or chronological based on the date and time. You could even, according to the name of the document, let's say it's based on receipt numbers, you could file it in numerical order, or you could file it based on the subject. So you have all the marketing information in one place, or the production information and so forth, right? Most of these are straightforward, but when it's time to file in alphabetical order, there's some rules that you need to know. So we're going to take a look at these rules here. And I'm telling you all, you need to commit these to memory, right? Because if they bring in this in exam, they're going to bring one where they're testing a variety of these rules, right? So things to know if you're filing in alphabetical order. Firstly, it's this order. Last name, then first name, then middle name. So you go in alphabetical order based on surnames. Right? Your surname first or your last name, then your first name, then your middle name. If the surnames are the same, then you check the first name. If the first name is the same as well, then you check the middle name. Right? If there's any title, and there's a doctor so and so, or Mr. so and so, father so and so, if it's a priest, or whatever the case may be, you leave that title out completely. So Dr. John Snow would be recorded as Snow, comma, John. Last name, then first name, you're ignoring the title. If there's a suffix or prefix, those are also left out. The only time you take into account a suffix like junior or senior is if you have two of the exact names and one of them is junior and one of them is senior. If that is the case, then the person with junior will be recorded before the person with senior. Other than that, you'd leave out the suffixes and the prefix. If a name is hyphenated, let's say you have like my surname, Skinner Ballantyne. That will be treated as one name. Skinner Ballantyne would be one name. So my surname would basically be starting with S. Alright? I'm telling you all, you need to take account of all of these rules because they love to combine them when they're bringing it for exam. Now the name of businesses. Also, before I move on, if your last name is McDonald or Vanderville or anything like that, all that is treated as one name, right? Keep that in mind. So if it's Jessica Vanderville, it'll be Vanderville, comma, Jessica. Now, before I move on as well, and next thing to note, nothing always goes before something. So if my last name is Vanderville and your last name is Vanif, Vanif, the first three letters are the same. In Vanderville, Van is the same. Vanif, Vanif is the name, right? So Van is the same. But after Vanif, you have a I. In Van, you have a space because there's a separate word, right? Vanderville would be considered having nothing after the Van, and Vanif will have a I. Nothing always goes before something. So Vanderville would go in front of Vanif. Now, if it's a company name, the entire name of the company is recorded. For the exception of if it starts with the word the, a, or an, then you leave that out completely. If you have a number in the name, you have to spell out the number. So if the name of my company is 21st Century Factory Limited, I will spell out the word 21 and it will be filed under T. If I have symbols like and, the and symbol for example, right, for the conjunction, I am going to spell out the word AND. Any apostrophes, commas, hyphens, etc. are ignored completely. And if the name of your company has some geographical part in the name, like it's Trinidad West Indian Tobacco Company or something like that, you put leaving it in. It will be filed under T for Trinidad. Right? It's important that you know all of these rules because they can be tested. Seen it tested before. Right? The other methods of filing is kind of straightforward. Numerical, you put it in order, the same way you would count. Chronological, you put it in order date from earliest to latest. Subject, you divide them into the various subjects, then file it in alphabetical order. Same thing with geographical. File it in the various geographical areas, then in each of those areas, file in alphabetical order. Right, now let's look at the manual infrastructure versus the electronic infrastructure when it comes to your management information system. For the manual one, your space to be physical. You'll be looking like your filing cabinets and stuff like that. The electronic one, you'll be looking at how much RAM or how much information in your cloud you have, according to where it is you're storing the information. For the speed, it might take a while to find your files under the manual. You'll have to go through the different drawers, look for the letter that corresponds, then look through those files to find the file you're looking for. For electronic, you just type in what you need and you should get access to it almost immediately. In the manual one, your security would be like locking your room, lock any filing cabinets and stuff like that. But unless you have important documents and things like a fireproof safe, it could be at risk of being damaged in the event of an accident. Your electronic one, you'll use encryptions and passwords and stuff like that to protect it. There is a chance it could get hacked. The manual one, you just buy a filing cabinet and stuff like that. Cost tends to be not too expensive. But with the electronic one, although you would think it to be less costly, you have to pay for these devices now, which make most likely cost more money. Right? For a backup now for manual, you're gonna have to make physical copies if you keep in manual backup, which could take a while if it's a large amount of documents. Electronic ones tend to happen automatically. Right? Now for legal acceptance, some documents require physical signature. There's no way around it. If it doesn't require that, then the digital shouldn't be an issue and the digital signature on the form shouldn't be an issue. Now, your information systems, your records management system, sorry, could be centralized or decentralized. If you have a small organization, I'll highly recommend centralized, because decentralized means every department has their own filing done, has all the equipment and everything needed for it, which could be costly. So if it's already small, you can just do all of those things in one place. If it's large, then I recommend a hybrid situation. There will be some things that are left in each department and carried out by each department, and then there will be some things that pertain to all the departments that should be filed in a centralized location. So I would recommend a hybrid use of both centralized and decentralized. Right. So let's look at some key things to know when you're maintaining a system. One, always be consistent with how you're indexing your files. Using alphabetical system, continue using the alphabetical system. You're gonna color code. Make sure you know what each color represents. If this is confidential, if this means important, whatever the case may be, right? Make sure and do your cross-referencing. Cross-referencing is needed if a file could possibly be found under more than one name. So for example, an employee got married and changed her maiden name. Somebody might look for her file under her original name or under her new name. You'll file it in one place, most likely the new name area, and where it would have been for her original name, it could create a cross-reference, letting people know where the file actually is. And then for accountability, you should have out cards. Whenever somebody is taking a file, they fill out the out card and they put it in its place. So if anybody needs the file, they know who has it. Oh gosh. Right. Now, when your files are inactive, what do we do? Should we keep those inactive files close by? The answer is no. You need to keep the ones that you're using regularly close by. So if it's no longer actively being used regularly, then it will end up keeping up space. We need to do something about it. One, you can use microfilming, which will reduce the documents to the size of film, which will make it far easier to store. And you can always retrieve it at a later date. But you definitely need to have a retention assessment. See how long you need to keep certain files for. If there's a requirement by law, if the file is being used frequently or not. And you could use that information to decide if you need to archive it or not. You can either archive. If it's inactive, you can either archive it, put it away somewhere, so it might be retrieved if you ever need it in the future, or you could just destroy it. And this is just one remember that the tickless file that we went through in previous days is a reminder system, not a permanent storage facility. Right? Now, certain things that we have to keep in mind, right? Our legal protection. First one, the right to access. Not everybody has the right to access certain information. Right? Some people do, but not others. So my employee information, I have a right to access it. Another employee will have the right to access my employee information. Right? Next thing we have to keep in mind is copyright infringement. We cannot make copies of things that are copywritten. It gets us in trouble. You also cannot share any kind of false statements that can harm anybody's reputation. That you could get in way more trouble for that. You cannot share out information that is confidential. You will get in trouble for that. Same as things you get in trouble for. Right? You cannot give out provisions secretly. You're supposed to, by law, disclose it. Some documents, you must keep it for a certain amount of time. That is by law. You should know that. And when it comes to public information, like information that might be the government may have, you have the right to access it. That's a recap. There's some quick scenarios to go through. The hospital needs to pull critical information quick. You wouldn't want them running to a manual file cabinet looking for the patient's history. Hopefully they'll have an electronic infrastructure where they can get the information quick. Or the patient might have a numerical classification, so it's easy to find the file. Let's say a law firm has 5 branch offices and needs to manage both local cases and overlapping firm policies. The branch information that is local to the branches should be filed there, so you only have decentralized filing. But then the stuff that is overlapping, that shouldn't be filed centralized, so everybody can get access to it. Next one, a clerk verbally shares an employee's medical test results with another department that is going against the confidentiality. You're gonna get in trouble. Can I do things like that? So these are some of the key takeaways. Again, please go over those alphabetical rules that we went through. I'm not seeing it coming for sure. But it could. And that's it. So we shall end here and we shall continue with our crash courses tomorrow. We have procurement, sales, operations, dispatch and transport, and then we'll do some past paper questions. So you'll end here for today. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.